like Le Grand Blue of L'Opposant to Space Odyssey 2001. So we have to think of it from the emotional perspective in order to do it really, really well. Not to say anything else, but we're working with constructed emotions. But this is an industry that's based around emotions, and we're really not using that layer enough. So that's why AI is important from the emotional perspective. Then there's a bunch of logistics you can put on top, like collaborative filtering, all these kinds of things. And they will always make sense because they'll help you structure consumer behavior. But there's been, from my perspective, there's been an overly focus on consumer behavior and a very, very surprisingly low focus on the content in itself. Because the content in itself is this is like, it's 4 holes dedicated to creating that content. And that's what we should be using in personalizing it and in pushing it forward.
I think there's still some kind of notion, the separation of church and state there, of content as a commodity versus content as a process. And I agree, you would think that all these years later, given what's going on in workflow, that we would have learned that lesson, that it's just iterative. But so, Stefan, talk about your recommendation as a service, the RAS that you are offering, which is a very interesting take on this.
So this particular product is really meant to have a quick deployment of recommendation for people who don't necessarily have who don't have a lot of data, who don't have clean data, who don't necessarily gather the right signals as well based on the interaction with their applications. So that's something that we have on the shelf that can be deployed very quickly. It's a set of API, it's in the cloud, like a lot of things. And for this particular product, we have not that many AI engines involved. And it's on the content side that we have most of our AI engines that are involved. And for one example is we are using facial recognition to spot people in video content. And we also work on trying to figure out which kind of mood those people are. It's particularly important in talk shows or in newscasts where you try to get the guests if they are pretty happy about what they're saying or if they're pretty sad or what kind of emotion they're trying to convey that you cannot find in the words but that you can find in the images. And to automate this process is very useful because you have again a deepest understanding of the content on the emotional layer, as you said, and that only drives a better recommendation at the end.
Yeah, for us, it's a constantly changing and evolving process. We look to create a loop where we're constantly adding in better and better data about the content. For the longest time, we need to find better data about video. And so there needed to be better techniques to go into the video, not just finding the entities in there like a car or a person or a dog, but you really want to understand what's going on in there. And some people began to bring in techniques to, take the audio and convert it to text so you can analyze that. In other words, that there's also a constant effort to get better and better data about the content and then get better and better data about the people. And what you're then looking to do is see how for us at least, see how the people respond to the recommendations that we have and then continuously try to refine it. Now, if you do a good job is they keep going and keep following your recommendations. Then you have to worry about things like echo effect and you're getting the same type of things over and over again and then another set of techniques to try to deal with that. So from our perspective, we have a solution that constantly seeks to optimize. And so it is an optimization process of getting the right data about the content and utilizing various techniques to do those, whether they be video-based or straight textually based, and then doing the same thing for the actual people that we're personalizing it for, even later on looking at everything from eye movement and detecting behavior, facial expressions, how they interact. All that is part of the data game that you constantly try to optimize.
So the bottom line on that is we're going to see an explosion of metadata, the likes of which we have never experienced ever in the media business. I mean, the next 3 years is going to be so much exponentially higher in terms of the level of metadata and data thrown off than we saw in the last 30, 50 years, actually. So, Bruce, along those lines, given what these gentlemen do and you heading up the strategy there, how will all these tools affect and integrate into the overall process on the very, very front end of news gathering, production? What kind of changes do you see in that part, the workflow aspect, all of that we see efficiency tools on the other side, on the front end? Give us some thoughts on that.
Sure. So more and more, I viewed AI a few years ago as very much targeted to narrow problem sets. You see it expanding the sorts of problems that AI is helping solve or expanding, and I think we're getting to the point where you see more end-to-end solutions that use AI. I'm not sure we're there yet in the news gathering business, but I think we're moving in that direction.
I would hope if you have, for instance, fleets of drones capturing, that there's not a big disconnect, right? For accuracy alone, or, for instance, fake news, we need to follow that stuff all the way around so those emotions that are being read are generated honestly, so to speak. But let's switch gears a little bit. I want to hear what you guys are working on, some recent success stories, something you're really proud of that you're doing. Let's start with Stefan to share with them what's going on.
Our latest very interesting project we had to work on was with MTV. So we created a personalized channel based using music videos, and so there's many components in music and that have been already explored a lot, and we have to factor in the video components of this music because you find certain elements in the video that you cannot find in the music itself, and kind of complements your understanding of what the artist wants to convey to his audience. And we've developed this, so we had to kind of dive quite deep into the music things that we didn't know much about 2 years ago. And we built that product with them, where basically you have music videos after music videos, and you can interact and skip to the next and say you like it, share it, and whatever. And we will learn based on that, and we will take always, because the MTV wants to keep a strong editorial, let's say, hand on what's happening. So we gather their editorial input through different playlists or the capabilities to overweight certain genre in certain markets and so on, so that we can have the best experience for them and make sure that people will, it's as usual, it's user engagement, so they would come often, they will stay longer, and that's how they will be making money at the end of the day.
Such a great example, because music and music video in particular has had its ups and downs. So this is another way where it can be reinvigorated as a category, right? Everything being transformed by video, audio, and music itself all the way up. It's very interesting, Patrick.
I'm a simple guy on this. I'm just happy when we get people to sell more, essentially. The majority of our products stem to create content discovery, either to increase loyalty or to increase sales. The last deployment we had, which was really, really cool to see, was with a main TiVo player in the Nordics. You probably wouldn't have heard of it, it's SF Anytime. It's a fairly small player, but very dominant in the region where we come from. And we were able to showcase that in some of the base scenarios, we had up to 20% more TiVo sales. We could see that people spent 30% more time in the service when they interacted with the recommendations we presented. And more than anything else, we've established a partnership where we can work very, very easily with implementing new use cases. One of the things that we're looking at now, which I've never seen in TiVo before, is, for instance, to create the end credit recommendations, what you would see at Netflix. We can automatically generate the endpoint and then try from there to create additional TiVo sales, either by series or to drive across the entire spectrum. I think those kinds of music, it's so easy to forget that this is an industry in the OTT space that really didn't exist about 4 or 5 years ago to any real norm. The things that our customers are demanding are things that Netflix invented 2 months ago. So we kind of have to push the envelope constantly and be toying with the ideas of how we do those recommendations. I think that's always the main case. We default back to that we can do similarities as good as anyone or better than anyone else in the world. I hope. And by doing that, we can fuel a number of different use cases. Then we've tried to toy in with, and I think this is super interesting, to look at automatic generation of trailers. Since we have the emotional structure of our content, we can automatically, say, bring out a little sample of that that's representative, almost like the back of the DVD envelopes you had 4 pictures to showcase the mood. Those kinds of things, again, to lead you quicker into content, not rely on text. Make all parts of the emotional layer available to you as a consumer. Those are the things that I'm most excited about right now.
But some of that was galvanized by the brands and agencies, obviously, right? Because once that genie was out of the bottle, had to boomerang online, had to boomerang back into the broadcast world. And they want that level of granularity, and they want the emotion, and they want, again, the predictive quality of that with the focus groups that you're talking about, next generation of all that kind of stuff. So, Bruce, what are you doing that you guys, or can you say?
So I can say a little bit. He's
probably acquiring companies is what they're proud of that he can't tell us.
No, I'll tell you about a really interesting project we're doing now and seeing a lot of somewhat unexpected success in using machine learning and object detection to process some imagery to give us a really good understanding of the physical world in which our networks are operating. And it grew as really just sort of an experiment on would this work, and has really become a thing, and it's really got some potential. And I think it's a lesson for startups that AI, you can find a narrow problem, apply it to that area, and you get these build, measure, learn loops going, and you can get really good at solving problems.
So we're a little different than, I guess, my fellow panelists in the sense that we have been attacking, I guess, part of the problem that Bruce mentions is where he really thinks some of this should go, which is utilizing the technology to create entirely new solutions. We're completely in the innovation and the innovation of products business. And so we apply multiple types of AI and AI techniques to come up with our solution. That is an end-to-end solution for managing and handling news, querying it, making it available, sharing it in large groups, creating collections, letting people do things with news and information that they've never been able to do. And so we also look at AI, and I'll give you a little perspective in the sense that I've been in an AI business with recommender engines almost a decade and a half. A lot of folks didn't even talk about it. When I was going around talking about personalization, we were entirely stuck in customization. If you could actually change the color of somebody's website, they were happy. And we were talking personalization. And people were like, we don't really think that's important yet. So it's an interesting world that we're in now that everywhere I go, folks are telling me about personalization. But quite frankly, I think me and my partner, who I consider probably one of the best technical minds in the world, Lee Wall, was one of the pioneers and built one of the earliest AI real-time personalization engines easily in the country. So when I began to look at AI, I'm looking at how to apply it and what techniques we need to build better solutions. So we believe we have a better news product than any of the cable companies and anyone outside of the big software companies, which we believe we compete on par with them in the industry. And so that's why I'll say over to Bruce, who's sitting right next to me, if he wants to come see a solution, make sure he sees us either after this panel or sometime tomorrow, because I'll show him a solution.
Okay.
And so that's where we are.
Heard it here first. If we can report it, go right ahead. So along those lines, almost at the end here, guys. What's the obverse of that, where, given that it is early days, what would you say either not necessarily in your own company, but any kind of hiccup or a problem just out of newness or misunderstanding of AI or misapplication of it as a business case, Is there anything that you could tell us or give some cautionary tales to the potential purveyors?
So one of my concerns is around using AI in promoting and filtering content. And I have a 10-year-old son and a 13-year-old daughter. They almost never watch linear television other than sports. They consume video from YouTube. And it concerns me when, my son's looking up the lunar landing from 50 years ago, and he wants to learn about that. And you see in the search results, half of the search results are the moon landing was a hoax, and so that's concerning. And it's like I know folks, at YouTube, Google, Facebook, everywhere else take these problems seriously, and it's just a sort of cautionary note that we need to be sensitive about how we're filtering out information.
Sure. So I would say, particularly folks here who are buying technology or partnering with folks with technology, the cautionary tale is really, to me, before you look at it, begin to establish criteria of how you evaluate it. There's always a problem with like AI stuff and personalization is, for years, it's just been black box. So how do you know one solution is better than the other? And so I think part of that comes in when you're looking at it and you're partnering to educate yourself to be able to understand the metrics that drive your business enough to make good AI purchasing and partnering decisions. So that's what I would tell you what you need.
I would much say that we shouldn't overestimate where we are. I mean, if you look at say the TV landscape in general, if you look at the customers, I would dare you guess, let's say 50% of them, the last product improvement they had was like HDTV. Most of them do not have UIs where you can fully get that feeling in there. I mean, I can be annoyed for the fact that I don't get a flexible personal feed that automatically pops up on the 15th when Game of Thrones starts, because I think we should really start getting resume watch back into EPGs, those kind of things. But most people are just happy that the TV's working and that they can experience a certain level of quality from it. And if we forget about the linear behavior, which is still one of the best discovery algorithms out there, you're zapping through 60, 70, maybe 100 channels, sampling them really, really quickly. If we forget about the consumer behavior in this, we end up with technical, not really usable solutions. So I think that would be my cautionary tale on this. Don't overestimate where we are.
And also over-engineer, right? So something too complicated for something where the end result needs to be pretty straightforward. Stefan, would you like to comment?
Yeah, it's more around personalization, and oftentimes our clients or prospects think that thanks to that they can totally not use human beings and editors and people like that to craft the service to really stick to their brands, and they're wrong. And we have to really educate them on those kind of expectations where they think that, and the music is an example, but we have plenty others, where they think that they can get rid of 90% of the staff that is sniffing the market around music, for example. Well, it's just not true. You still need people to curate the output of the system that we're building. We need still people to feed them. We still need people around and inside AI to make it work and to make it efficient. Sure, there will be different roles and different skills that will be required to have those kind of systems working very efficiently, but you cannot remove completely human factor from that.
So just really quickly, we're going to wrap, but just go through from here and we'll end with work again. Who else is out there doing things that you think are very interesting or innovative in this space? Other companies that you admire? Maybe even somebody that you're partnering with? Just real quick. Stefan.
Well, we are in talk with a company that I think is doing very smart things when it comes to using different techniques of AI. And one thing I found that is very narrow use case, but very interesting, is extracting the most significant picture, the most meaningful picture to represent a video. and that usually is done something entirely automatic. It's the frame that is in the middle or something that is not engaging at all. And then they're applying a lot of different techniques to extract something that really will engage, and they test different let's say top 5 best candidates, and they come with the most engaging thumbnails to represent that video amongst the catalog that you would be browsing. So, and this kind of thing that, I would have been proud to think about that before then.
I'll go with a pretty boring answer on this, but I think Netflix at the moment is doing some of the best customer experiences still. I mean, we can argue a lot about their recommendations not being good enough, but they are a lot better than most. And they're really pushing the envelope around automatic trailerings, bringing the video experience back into the interfaces. They are doing they are chaining between production all the way up to creation of metadata and UI. That's unheard of in any of the companies here. They're really pushing a lot on that, which is important for the industry and super interesting to see.
So I see a lot of good things out there. One example is IBM. They built the Watson platform, and you see that being applied to numerous verticals, whether it's healthcare, weather. Today I saw a demonstration on the broadcast news usage of Watson. So it's building a platform that you can then apply across numerous areas. That's pretty impressive.
For me, some of the best stuff I'm actually seeing is actually in universities. Like I said, that we work with a professor in Maryland whose areas and looking at video to predict the next action in the video. And literally being able to create videos out of thin air, basically off of keywords that drive the creation of new video content. That kind of stuff, it excites me, right? Because it pushes, again, as you mentioned, the envelope of what you can do. And as often is the case, a lot of the leading edge stuff is yet to be in the marketplace. And that's where we actually work with a lot of universities. I'm seeing some pretty amazing stuff there.
Well, we love that at Sprocket, which is why we are here, trying to help all these real innovators, people push the envelope and support them for many years. Thanks very much, guys. It was a good show. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
I'll take that. Am I on? Turn me on. I'm on. Okay, everybody, before you get up, turn it on. Before you get up, we're going to move from artificial intelligence to absolutely no intelligence, which we call television. Oh, stop laughing. We're going to talk about ATSC3, and for the non-techies in the audience, we're not going to talk about the technology. We're going to talk about how to actually make money with it, what next-gen TV is, and how that's all going to work. So anybody who's over at Sprocket, come on over here. Let's sit down and listen. Panelists, get up here on your stage. Come on. Let's go. Go take a seat. Leave that one on the end for me. Dave. All right. Take anyone you want. I know. That's a spare. You can turn that off. I'm using this one. There you go. Oh, I see. Move over. That's not going to work. Are we okay now? Is everybody happy where they are? You want to change position? Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Rick Howe. I'm the doctor. And we're going to be talking about maximizing the benefits of ATSC3. Now, in reality, as I mentioned before, we're not talking about the technology as much. We're going to talk about how we make money with all this, with that odd thing called next-gen TV. We have one industry expert here on the end, and we have two startups from Sprocket, and we're going to let them introduce themselves and then get started. So, Alan, are you on? You on?
I'm not sure. Here we go.
You're on. Okay, let's go.
First of all, we're standing in the back there, and the acoustics here are pretty challenging. So, can you hear us? Okay. All right. I'm Alan McLennan. I'm the chief executive with the Panel Media Group out of San Francisco. We deal in this kind of environment pretty extensively, both from technical platforms and delivery and content creation around the world. We participate in a number of different types of executions in OTT and development, and part of that is really having a kind of efficient distribution of content over new networks. Yeah, 5G is coming. ATSC 3.0 is definitely the gating and bridging technology and standard that's coming up. But more importantly, it's really engaging all of you at home with the efficiencies for the broadcasters over this new standard into the house. So there's many different types of things that we're looking at right at the moment. And part of that, working with some of the world's largest corporations, from Microsoft to Ericsson or now Mediacom and the like, that really is trying to figure this all out. There's more. We'll go into that.
All right. Gabe?
Yeah. I'm Gabe Abdo, the founder and CEO of Cut to It. We are releasing our new platform, the Video Mind. Our company is focused on, interested in more of the engagement within the media, sharing it, protecting the intellectual property, and as Rick said, trying to make money out of that. The new technology is very interesting for us. It is coming down the pipe. It's coming faster than we expected. It might still take time before it matures. We'll see how that goes. We are building our platform to support that technology as it evolves.
And Anton, who, by the way, I said I will not even attempt to pronounce his last name, so do it at least twice so we can hear it.
Okay, so my name is Anton Tkachuk. Hello, everyone. Basically, just a short brief about our company. Doppler is a one-stop shop for media buyers and media sellers who wish to in-house their ad tech and R&D. We've been on the market since 2013, first as our parent company, Geomotive, which is a bespoke ad tech R&D services provider. And in 2017, the company created its product development arm called Doppler, and I'm basically the product manager for Doppler Trusted Marketplace Technology. And it turns out this year that I'm representing our company alone at the NAB show, and I take part in this discussion instead of our CEO, who unfortunately wasn't able to come because of the delay with the visa. But still, I will do my best and try to convey our vision of advertising future in connection with ATSC 3.0.
Thank you. Okay, now, let's talk to the audience real briefly. Raise your hand if you have a television. All right. Raise your hand if you subscribe to Netflix. Everybody. Raise your hand if you subscribe to a cable operator or satellite provider. A half-decent number. And I assume, show me somebody who has Netflix who doesn't have cable or satellite. Raise your hand. A couple. Show me who has cable or satellite who doesn't have Netflix. Almost none. Actually, none. Isn't that interesting? Okay, so we are reaching a crisis point in television. There is so much to watch, and nobody can find anything, right? And it's about to get worse, because in my local market in Baltimore, my NBC affiliate has 3 digital channels, right? We all went digital, got rid of analog, and the antennas on the roof for the birds now. And that NBC affiliate, who's I think a Hearst affiliate, and Roger's not here anymore, but it has 1 channel of the mothership of NBC, right? And 2 channels of Bonanza reruns that nobody really watches. Well, with ATSC 3, it's going to get twice as bad, because there's going to be, according to Alan, at least 6 channels, and depending on how they modulate them, I'm not an engineer. You might have figured that out. They might have up to 8 channels. Or, as I said, they might have 2 channels and lease a lot of bandwidth to Verizon to fire up 5G. By the way, I'll let you know right now, the doctor, I'm the ITV doctor. I have two laws of this business. One, you can never have too much bandwidth. And number two, you can never have too many engineers. Because where the industry is going is just nuts. So we have one of the SPROCKIT members here, Gaith Abdo, at Cut To It with a product called VideoMine, which is designed specifically to solve that problem of so much to watch and you can never find it. Because in point of fact, he has the ability for me to share with you in a unique way all of the favorite moments of my favorite shows. Aren't you lucky? You in particular, you're very lucky. You're going to get it. Okay, so Gabe, tell us how it works.
It's very simple. It's exactly as you explained it. You're watching the video. You like a part of that video to share with the other people. You point to the beginning, you point to the end, and you share. No new files, no tools, no equipment, no nothing to use for the sharing. And when you share it, it's playing from the original video. So for the media owners, there is no clipping that's going to YouTube or clipping that's going anywhere else. It's protecting their intellectual property. And for you, the consumer, it is sharing what you like, having the people to comment on what you like, and they can share it to Facebook, they can share it to any of the other social media outlets, and then from there it is what you comment, what's your take on that, and your take on that doesn't have to be text like everyone else. You can actually record your own video comment, and it remains fully synchronized with the segment that you selected. So if anyone is playing the segment, they can see you popping on the side saying your own comment on that.
Okay, so let me ask the audience, who here has ever found some video clip online that you've shared with somebody? Do it all the time, right? Who's ever actually clipped something original and shared it? One person. Was it easy? Two. If you have the right software. Okay. Who here has looked at a video and said, oh my heavens, there's something right there you need to see. It's about 13 minutes in. We do that all the time. What Gaith's product does is allow him or me to share with you that scene in the middle of This Is Us where that guy who looks just like my high school science teacher. And I share it on my Facebook high school, you don't want to know what year, my Facebook high school reunion page. And rather than saying at 13 minutes and 32 seconds, that looks just like Mr. Boucher, I'm actually going to send you the 10 seconds of Mr. Boucher. But with Gaith's software, you're actually going to see that, and you go deeper, and it's that entire episode of This Is Us. Advertising embedded, and we will let NBC know who watched it, who shared it, who went on to that. And we're not clipping anything, we're not violating any copyright. We're just sharing the entire thing. And as we talked earlier, with the business rules, it could be shared freely if it's ad-supported, or if it's an episode or something, you know, the dragon in Game of Thrones, when the dragon fried the father's son. Okay, that was season 7? One of the seasons. If it's an older episode of Game of Thrones, HBO might let you watch the whole thing. But they might ask you for your email address, right? If it's the season 8 of Game of Thrones, which starts Sunday, season 8 of Game of Thrones, they're not going to let you watch anything. Maybe the 5 seconds, maybe a little bit this way and a little bit that way, but they're going to put in a paywall and say, baby, if you want to watch that, you need to subscribe to HBO Go, or you need to authenticate, God help us all, with your cable or satellite provider. Okay, so sharing videos are a way through ATSC3 and anything else. It can be done live, right? And it can be done with on-demand. So with ATSC3, where we have now in my little town of Baltimore, I've got 6 broadcasters, all of whom have 6 channels of stuff. And I can't find what to watch on what I've got now. Now I got 36 more channels of things that I don't know what it is. So when somebody actually recommends something to me, it's meaningful. That's what he does. Now, then the next question we get to is, with advertising, how can we monetize all this? And this is going to be somewhat programmatic. Anton, tell us a little bit of what a Doppler does.
Okay, so basically speaking of advertising under 8AC3, it is going to have a huge impact to the entire media industry. And let me explain briefly why. So in traditional linear media buying, you pretty much know the amount of inventory and it is fixed, and you don't have to hunt for buyers, as buyers usually know which ad spots they want to buy and you know what your avails are. And with the emergence of ATC3, the landscape is changing. So here are a couple of highlights which you as a TV company need to consider while moving to a new standard. So first of all, you should forget about avails and GRP, meaning that you need to imagine that you have 1 million viewers that spend around 1 hour a day in front of their TVs. And let's assume that your programming schedule is composed of 48 10-minute ad breaks that gives you approximately 1,000 ad slots per day to sell. So it's easy, right? And all of a sudden with 8AC 3.0 and with the same amount of ad breaks, you appear to have 40 million ad impression opportunities. And at this point, you need to answer a few questions. Do you support impression as a currency? Or are your sales reps are trained to sell impressions? And secondly, you appear in the world of targeted advertising. And since your tech allows to target specific screens, buyers start asking for targeted impressions. And here, whereas the first-party data comes to the game, and taking this into consideration, you need to answer a few questions as well as which information about your households do you know, and which data have you accumulated in-house? Is it mergeable with third parties, or can you reach your audience on the internet? And third point is, of course, the scale. You need to know if you're able to put your staff to accommodate the potential growth. So do you have sales reps that have a command of digital lingo, and are they able to train others? So I mean, all these challenges are where the disruption is going to take place, and all those questions are needed to be answered on the early stage of ATSC's 3.0 adoption. And we at Doppler and Geomotive have been backing a few very well-known names in both traditional TV and CTV OTT spaces, as well as in traditional ad tech. We have built custom solutions for private and public US media companies. And our perspective on what is going to happen in coming years spans both digital and linear, and both for media sellers and media buyers.
Right. What Anton is too polite to tell you is that Doppler and their parent company is based in Belarus, right? About 8 hours in front of New York, so if you're looking for offshore engineering with an 8-hour time delay rather than going to India with something closer to 15, 16 hours. How much?
10.5 hours.
All right. What you have with this team is the folks who were behind the ad stack of a small little ad-supported service called Pluto TV. And Pluto kind of did okay, didn't they? Except their ad stack was designed a couple of years ago, and the folks at Doppler said, wow, now that we know how popular that is, and now that we know how to do all that, we're going to brand that ourselves. So if you are jealous of what Pluto TV was able to achieve, both with Viacom, and didn't they just license Doctor Who this morning? They're getting more content. So we've got that going on. Okay, now, when we talk about ATSC3 and the challenges, we're going to get into the whole business proposition at the corporate level and what's involved in making ATSC3 happen and what's in the way of that. Alan, can you share a little bit of guidance on that?
Well, that's kind of a very big question when it comes down to that. But, let's just take a look at what's going to happen over the course of the next, 5 years. That's about the deployment time that we're going to be looking at ATSC 3.0, because there's something out in the marketplace right now that exists that's very difficult for the broadcasters to get around, and that's ATSC 1. That in and of itself is...
Wait a minute. Whatever happened to ATSC 3.2?
It never really deployed. It never really was able to really pull together. And by the time it was dated.
So they skipped it and went to 3.
They skipped it.
For anybody who wanted to know.
They learned a lot during the course of the development of 2.0.
That'll be a question on Jeopardy later.
But the fact of it is that let's just look at the aspect of how something is built and deployed. I mean, you can all go back, right? Like about 5 years ago, or you talk about future speak and things are taking place. We've heard it many, many times in the course of the development of the internet and broadband and all the different kinds of models and products that are going on. Pluto TV was a great thing, but has anyone ever really watched Pluto TV? Okay, you got about 200 channels of content that's really not interesting. You got maybe IndyCar racing, that's pretty fabulous. But the model in and of itself and the underlying technology that's able to insert the advertising is great. The difference is it just automatically inserts it wherever it is at the time. 10 minutes into the program, no matter, somebody will say that, it'll cut. I'll put in 4 commercials and then it'll pick it up from there. So we're learning how the viewer is changing, and in the course of how this is moving forward is ATSC 3.0. ATSC 3.0 is, by the time about the end of next year, there will be about 40 markets looking at it. But it's not going to be fully provisioned for two-way, which is what we're talking about here, for another 2 to 3 years, if that. So what we're going to be looking at the moment, let's take NAGRA, for example. NAGRA is working with Pearl. Pearl is a really smart execution. If you really want to go to school on something that's out in the market, take a look at Pearl TV's effort, the Phoenix trial, the Phoenix beta. You're going to see that they actually went out and talked with the audience, they talked with the consumers in those markets to find out what they're interested in and how their use behavior of television is. And that's really where things started getting kind of wiggly in there. They weren't really that interested in two-way streaming, so that was the point initially for the broadcasters. ATSC 3 is also designed to actually make broadcasters a little bit more competitive with the guys that are coming, the big 800-pound gorillas that are out in the marketplace, with Google, Facebook, who are doing really tremendous deployments of their overall services from live and YouTube. So we're in this real competitive environment, and you've got to remember there's a staged, stepped effort in deploying a new standard in the technology in particular. You've probably also heard about Sinclair. Fabulous. Hands down fabulous execution of what they're doing with their new their television service. And that, again, is pushing out a lot of content in a lot of different ways, a lot of different, as Rick said, about 6 or 8 types of different channels. So how this is all going to come together, let's just not get carried away on what the application that's currently in the market. It's a process. It's right now the reason why it's important to secure the content that's going out is because it's digital content, and if it comes to the television with any kind of remote PVR or your DVR, you can own it. So how do you control that within this environment? Number 2, it's the backstream. We've got to test that out and see how that's going to come back. And number 3 is that this is a first worldwide standard. It's kind of tough. DVB in Europe or MPEG here, and this has all been kind of a licensing model that a lot of companies live and breathe on. So with ATSC 3.0, it's a very solid positive step moving forward. It's something to learn from these betas that are out there in the marketplace, and understand that it's a process. So don't get don't hyperventilate. This isn't something that's going to happen within the next 12, 18 months. It's a process, but it's real. Where does that stand? When it comes to 5G, 5G is paralyzing the market. It is truly phenomenal. But 4G is real. 4G is working tremendously well, and you got to remember that nothing that 4G has can be replicated for 5G. So everything is got to be a new infrastructure, new deployments, everything. So that's what's curbing the rollout of 5G. It is a great technology, and it'll get to a point where you'll be able to have holographic kinds of meetings in companies with somebody from another area sitting in that chair next to you that they're being broadcasted, because the immediacy and the speed of 5G is truly great. That is happening. Rollout is going to take place. There's many different applications out in the marketplace when it comes to 5G, but it's not really.
He's giving me 3 minutes signing.
Okay, so let me finish up on ATSC 3.0. ATSC 3.0 is a real deal. It actually works tremendously well. There's a lot of different variables that can work extremely well to move the market forward, tracking, GPS, autonomous vehicles. All of this works really well with ATSC 3.0, and especially with over-the-air transport. Interesting, isn't it? You're going to be able to put on your home that capability to capture this content that broadcasters are going to push out there. The gating factor there is the box. The bill of materials on the box are quite expensive. In Korea, they could be $300 to $350 a box. So that is being worked out right now to be able to pull it back. Televisions aren't going to come out provisioned with ATSC 3.0 until mid-2022. So the boxes are going to be really important. Whatever those management capabilities are going to be. Then we can start talking about business models, because they're real. And they're very solid.
Okay, we have one more comment. This is, by the way, from a 5G hologram of a guy from Thompson Broadcast.
It works tremendously well. There's a lot of different variables that can work extremely well to move the market forward, tracking, GPS, autonomous vehicles. All of this works really well with ATSC 3.0, and especially with over-the-air transport. Interesting, isn't it? You're going to be able to put on your home that capability to capture this content that broadcasters are going to push out there. The gating factor there is the box. The bill of materials on the box are quite expensive. In Korea, they could be $300 to $350 a box. So that is being worked out right now to be able to pull it back. Televisions aren't going to come out provisioned with ATSC 3.0 until mid-2022. So the boxes are going to be really important. Whatever those management capabilities are going to be really key. Then we can start talking about business models, because they're real. And they're very solid.
Okay, we have one more comment. This is, by the way, from a 5G hologram of a guy from Thompson Broadcast who's going to tell us a little bit about what ATSC3 means when you get down to what in the world do they do at my local NBC affiliate in Baltimore. How are they going to manage all this stuff? Jay, introduce yourself. Are you real?
Yes. I'm a hologram here. Hi, this is Jay Yogeshwar. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer for Thomson Broadcast. You know Thomson traditionally from the manufacturer of radio and television transmitters, but now we have a vision of what is called software-defined television. Because ATSC 3.0 is a broadcast protocol inside of an IP world, inside of an IP universe. So really, broadcast engineers now have to be streaming engineers. But if you understand the World Wide Web, then it's going to be fairly straightforward for people in Baltimore to be able to deliver ATSC 3.0. So, because it's just going to seem like a streaming business. It's not so difficult, it's very doable, and of course it's going to enable a lot of new business opportunities through advertisement and through personalization, lots of personalization, and it's any type of commercialization you can do on the web, you're going to be able to do it on the TV. So it's that simple.
All right, so here's one thing, and Alan actually told us I know we got a 5-minute late start, so I'm going to go a little bit late. Excuse me. Alan told us 2 really important things I didn't know. One is, which I want to double check this, because this is important. The outbound, the broadcast ATSC3 signal is in a 2-ish year window, but the return path is 2 years after that?
It's there, but it's a matter of it's not as efficient as coming back.
Okay, all right. And the other thing, I think this is actually
secured.
Right, it's not secure. Okay. The other thing, this is really very significant, as opposed to 5G, where it's a complete turnover of the technology, right?
It's the infrastructure.
And the infrastructure from 4G, right? But ATSC3 is more of an evolution.
It is absolutely correct.
Okay, put your microphone up there.
Absolutely correct.
All right, so that as an evolution,
what we are learning to do and doing better with both audience acquisition here and with advertising here and with how we're running the broadcast stations with ATSC 3 over ATSC 1, whatever happened to ATSC 2, it is an evolving process, not a revolution. And what we can do is take the things that we know how to do today on television and modify them and move them into ATSC 3, correct?
There's absolutely no question about it. But let's not forget, it's something that has been learned and thoroughly developed with ATSC 3.0. I mean, it's truly an incredible opportunity for broadcasters to participate in the marketplace.
Okay.
Like Google and Facebook.
All right.
But
We're going to tie up. Where can they find you? In the microphone.
Well, CutIt is right there. If you want to stop by, we are within the SPROCKIT area, and we will be happy to show you a demo. One last word about this new technology that's coming out is it will allow the consumer to use the 4K and 8K in much less cost than it is done now. Correct?
All right. Anton, where can we find a Doppler?
Okay, so our booth is just here near the theater and just summarizing the transition of advertising under the ATSC 3.0 standard. It won't be easy. It will require tweak groups to acquire new tech, to train it, hire new staff, and finally to enter to the 21st century battle with the FANG, with super competitors, fully embracing the entire digital media sales model. And if how unfortunate it can be, tweak groups will decide to drop off their ad solutions to the convoluted edtech ecosystem, the FANG will grow at their expense. But if what is we here at the Doppler and Geomotive have been advocating for, TV group, we have not. I'm finishing. TV groups will decide, will want to have a first-class seat at this table. They need to start getting ready for it now.
All right. And as far as myself, you won't find me here. I was asked to participate with Rick, and so in that particular test, if you want more information, just patternmediagroup.com. And it's got a lot of different papers, white papers, and subjects of matters that are on there. And so in that particular test, if you want more information, just patternmediagroup.com. And it's got a lot of different papers, white papers, and subjects of matters that are on there. Pattern Group.
And Jay reminds me, his hologram just reminded me that Thompson is down here in 46 something or other in this, and they're showing ATSC 3 demos and the technology. All right, everybody, thank you very much. Appreciate your time. We got 5 minutes late start. We went 5 minutes late. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Ready for one more session? Lots of energy. My name is Frank Munjum, practice at the Arizona State University Cronkite School of Journalism with three great innovators here. We're talking about the intersection of localism and innovation. So near to far, Sarah Lloyd with Social News Desk, and we'll let each of them talk a little about what they do. Dennis Roach is the co-founder of Burbio, and Rebecca Dopp with Google. And excited to hear from each of you what your experience has been about how you take advantage of insights at the local, hyper-local level to make better products that then actually scale to solve problems global level. So a little more about, so if you could each just give the nut graph of Social News Desk. What is Social News Desk, and one big win you've had that was powered through local innovation? Start with you, Sarah.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Sarah Lloyd. I'm the Senior Client Success Manager at Social News Desk, based in San Antonio, Texas. We're kind of everywhere. We are a social media publishing platform, and we're in the 200 of the 210 local DMAs in the United States, as well as a few international territories as well. And one big win that we've had is that we are local from the ground up. We were started by two executive producers from a local TV station in Jacksonville, Florida, and they just needed a better solution for social media on the local level. And so they decided to build one because there wasn't one 10 years ago. So when they built it, literally every feature that we've built has had that local broadcaster in mind, because that's the problem that we're trying to solve. We're trying to understand what are the unique needs of a newsroom, what are they trying to accomplish in their day, what are their pain points, where are they, really running into issues, with having multiple people in the newsroom who need access to their social media accounts. And so we've been able to solve for that.
That's great. So one great lesson, right, is if you solve your own problem locally, you might turn out to have a business solving it for other people too.
You could be up here too.
Mike, more on the idea behind Burbio.
Dennis from Burbio